I don't know if the media is ignoring this because it makes the current administration look like they're crazy. I don't know if it's not getting enough clicks in the news because of maybe normalcy bias, where everybody thinks, well, that's not really happening. The news says it's just saber rattling, even though there's probably over 1 million people dead in this conflict. There's just so much to go over. Russia's preparing a nuclear bunkers, as is Europe. Europe's preparing to send 8,000. They have plans for 800,000 NATO troops, including Americans. I don't know why this isn't getting more attention. The only thing I can think of is because right now there's a men bad movement going on in the United States. And I guess everybody's thinking, well, we'll send some soldiers over there and it is what it is. And, who cares? Men die all the time. Like our global elites, while they're sitting eating their $15 ice cream, a la Nancy Pelosi, will just send us peons off to, and I'm going to put this on the Better Bachelor channel as well as my news channel. And so you guys will probably see it both in your feed over on YouTube if you follow both my channels. But the reason why is this of all issues, and this is what I don't understand. This of all issues is the worst men's issue. Being forced into a conflict that you probably don't even care about. You just want it to be over with by global elites that have their own machinations and their own plans for you. And if you win, you get nothing. And if you lose, you're no longer here on the planet. I think that's a pretty big deal. Me personally. I personally think of all men's issues, this is the biggest one we face as men. Being forced into conscription and doing things that we don't want to do that may end us for a government that hates us and for a society that doesn't appreciate us. Is that any surprise? So that's why this is going on all my channels, damn it. Before we get into the main story, let me talk about normalcy bias, because I think there is some of this going on. It's normalcy bias or normality bias. It's a cognitive bias which leads people to disbelieve or minimize threat warnings. Consequently, individuals underestimate the likelihood of a disaster when it might affect them and its potential adverse effects. The normalcy bias causes many people to prepare inadequately for natural disasters, market crashes, calamities caused by human error, or in this case, war. About 80% of people reportedly display normalcy bias during a disaster. They excuse me. I don't know if I got allergies or what, but man, I can't stop coughing. About 80% of, this is the effects of it, about 80% of people reportedly display normalcy bias in disasters. It's been described as one of the most dangerous biases we have. The lack of preparation for disasters often leads to inadequate shelter, supplies, and evacuation plans. Even when all of these things are in place, individuals with normalcy or normalcy bias often refuse to leave their homes. It can cause people to dramatically underestimate the effects of the disaster. They think they're safe even though information from the radio, television, or neighbors give them reason to believe there's risk. This bias causes a cognitive dissonance that people must work to eliminate. Some manage to eliminate it by refusing to believe new warnings coming in and refusing to evacuate, while others eliminate the dissonance by escaping the danger. The possibility that some people may refuse to evacuate causes significant problems in disaster planning. So the reason why I think Russia ships off the coast of Cuba, no big deal. The news barely reports on it. The conflict in Russia, we're not really reporting on that much anymore. Or in Ukraine, I should say. We're not really reporting on that much anymore, other than the big-ass checks we're sending over there, and we're not talking about it. So, of course, if you're not going to talk about it, then people are going to say, well, it's not that big a deal, because a lot of people still kind of overwhelmingly listen to legacy media, and I think that's a mistake. I really do, because they've proven time after time after time, they have no reason to tell you the truth. They have reason to tell you propaganda. And if everybody was up in arms about this and were screaming, stop, it would look bad on the current administration. Why did we all of a sudden escalate things when we've got Trump coming in basically 2 months and change, saying, I'm going to put a stop to this immediately? Why are they then all of a sudden escalating this? After 1,000 days, NATO and the U.S. decides to escalate things. It's because they don't want this over. They don't want this to end. Either they want the control close to Russia. They want to destroy Russia. They want to weaken Russia. They want the Ukrainian farmland, which is the richest soil in the world. They want that sweet, sweet crude and lithium and cobalt and all these other resources, trillions of dollars that are supposedly in the ground in Ukraine. BlackRock's already invested, I don't know how many billions of dollars to go in and rebuild and do recovery efforts in Ukraine. In the meantime, going in and opening their lithium mines and whatever else that's going to make them trillions of dollars. I mean, they've come out and said this before. I did a video on this before. So why we're not talking about this, I don't know. But I'm going to talk about it today. I want you guys to know what's coming so that if you're going to say, I don't care if you draft me or not, I'm not doing this, I'm not going in, or you can vote a certain way or whatever you got to do. Thailand's looking pretty good right now, I'm just saying. And this is what I'm talking about with the legacy media falsely reporting on things and lying to you. And there's a very simple litmus test we can tell right off the beginning of this. This is a headline from November 19th of 2024, 2 days ago. Ukraine war at 1,000 days, 700,000 are dead or wounded for Russia. So Russia's got closing in on almost 1 million men dead. Now, how's things going for Ukraine? They say the human toll as of August 31st, 2024, so this is just, 2 months ago, the UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission in Ukraine had documented at least 11,000 civilians killed and 24,000 wounded in Ukraine. So you're going to tell me Russia's lost 700,000 men, not injured, they're just gone. And over here, you're going to say the official numbers say 24,000 wounded in Ukraine. Now, in this original story here, they say that Russia reportedly losing about 750,000 personnel, and Ukraine's losses are estimated at 300 to 400,000. Why do I not believe this? I mean, Russia's got a huge military compared to Ukraine. The 5 missiles that Ukraine shot off at Russia, the long-range ones that the United States gave them, 5 of the 6 of them were shot down by Russia. Something doesn't seem right here. It just doesn't seem to make sense. Now, I'm not saying I have all the answers. But going on the reporting that's been given to us, you've got one article saying 24,000 wounded. You've got another that say coming up on 500,000 in Ukraine, but that Russia's twice the number of missing, lost personnel. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, sir.
There's definitely propaganda at play. And either way, Germany is now planning to mobilize 800,000 NATO troops over fears of World War III. This is not a long story. They say an all-out war in Europe may be imminent. Let me read this again, please, for you guys out there. All-out war in Europe may be imminent after U.S. President Joe Biden gave Ukraine the green light to launch U.S. missiles into Russia, prompting it to change its nuclear policy amidst its 2-year-plus-long conflict. Documents revealed Wednesday that Berlin has begun making plans, hypothetical plans, but see, again, that's the wording. I'm going to make plans to do something. I'm going to make hypothetical plans to do. It's kind of the same thing. If you're hypothetically making plans, you're making plans to deploy as many as 800,000 NATO troops, including Americans, into Ukraine as fears skyrocket about Russia's nuclear capabilities. Now, this is an American outlet. That's why they write this. They could have said, including Americans, Australians, Germans, Norwegians, the French, Englishmen. This is almost, now we're going to throw another almost 1 million men to the dogs of war. And if you think, let's just take their numbers as good, for argument's sake. 750,000 in Russia, maybe as many as 400,000 in Ukraine, although why we wouldn't know the exact numbers, because it's an ally. Spoiler alert, we know the exact numbers. It's way worse than they're telling us. So that's 1.2 million men already sent to the grave, and now they're talking about adding another 800,000. That's close to 2 million men that are either gone or at risk of being gone, and they're just like, it's another day, everybody. No big deal. You know why it's not a big deal? Because it's not the politicians going into the meat grinder. I cannot count on all my hands and all my toes times 100 how many videos I've seen of men begging for their lives before having a drone impact and blow them. I've seen guys put the end of a rifle in their mouth and yank on the go button to remove their own head before these drones come to get them. I've seen, I don't know how many thousands of videos on Twitter of this stuff. And it's not popular anymore. You have to dig for it a little bit, but it's still out there. Why aren't we talking more about this? Because, war is ugly. And, it's just a necessary. We don't need to be doing this. Trump said he's going to come in from day one and stop it. Why are we escalating this? It's because they want it. They want it. And they will use men, innocent men that want no part of this. They will use those men to get those goals. And your reward is fuck you. That's your reward. We don't even take care of the veterans as they're coming back here. Our own veterans are being kicked out of facilities for immigrants, illegal immigrants. So how much do you think I'm on board with this? Before I continue reading the other stories here, let me finish this one off. Because I forgot I'm halfway through this article and I'm screaming already. It detailed specific okay. Sorry. Thought I lost my spot. It detailed specific buildings and infrastructures to protect for military use and outlined a plan for civilians and businesses in case of increased threats, according to the German newspaper Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. The document also suggested Berlin was preparing to plan a push of 200,000 military vehicles across German territory if the alliance is called to join Ukraine's war efforts. According to the report, Germany has also advised citizens to be prepared to be self-sufficient by installing diesel generators or even wind turbines. The concern is not contained to Germany, as fellow European nations, including Sweden and Norway, have also recently issued instructions to citizens on how to prepare if the Ukraine conflict bleeds over into their countries. It comes as Russia's President Vladimir Putin formally changed the Kremlin's nuclear strike policy on Tuesday. Moscow declared it may now consider using nuclear weapons to respond to non-nuclear conventional weapon strikes. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said Tuesday that the country would not let ourselves be intimidated by Putin's nuclear policy shift. So the foreign minister, this Annalena Baerbock, a woman, and the reason why it's a woman is important because she has something to prove. Women oftentimes, especially women leaders, if you look at history, oftentimes feel they have things to prove when it comes to being strong. And usually being strong is, I'm not going to be intimidated and I'm not going to back down. I'll show you. And that's the girl that walks up to the man in the bar and slaps him before he picks her up, breaks her in half over his knee, and discards her. We've seen how many times women overreact and then get bashed over the head. I'll keep this relatively normal for YouTube's sake. So now she's saying, we're not going to be intimidated. Well, you're not on the battlefield, bitch. You're not the one out there getting ground in the meat grinder. You're back in your office. And my guess is Germany doesn't send women like this to the front lines. Women can't be drafted here in the United States. I'm sure if they conscript for the German army, it's not going to be women. So of course she can say, we're not going to, we'll show you. I'll send 1 million men to be ground to dust against you. This makes me so mad that they're just willing to go at this when literally we have peace proposed by Trump and and Putin said, I'm willing to sit down and listen. That's the guy you want to sit down and listen, but they can't just wait. They can't wait a couple months because it'll throw a monkey wrench in all their greedy little plans. She says Germany in particular made the mistake back then, especially politically, of allowing itself to be intimidated by this fear, and above all, not listening to its partners, especially our Eastern European partners who made it clear at the time that we must not rely on promises from the Kremlin. She added, we must invest in our own security and protection by sending 800,000 healthy men off to the front lines. She didn't say that, of course, because that'd be admitting the truth. The Russian policy change was a response to another major development this week after Biden gave Ukraine long-awaited approval to launch U.S. long-range missiles into Russia, which is another escalation and provocation. This effectively eliminated the 190-mile safe space Russia has, quote, enjoyed. Russia said it would play by the rules that Ukraine set forth, and so far it has. They didn't fire deep into Ukraine because Ukraine didn't have the ability to fire deep into Russia. Look, I'm not saying Putin's the good guy here, but he said, if you do X, I will do X. If you do Y, I'll do Y. If you don't do that, we're just going to grind away at you until we can pick up what we want out of Ukraine. That doesn't make him a good guy. It doesn't mean he's necessarily playing by the rules, but he does have ICBMs and hypersonic missiles and MIRVs and all these other things they haven't deployed yet. Well, that's off the table now, isn't it? All because Biden had to escalate. Russia gained 10,000 troops from North Korea who joined the fight against Ukraine last month as a training exercise, they said. All right, we're going to get down more into this. I do want to read from today's sponsor, the wellness company. As we talked about, the ATACMS, the missiles that just got fired into Ukraine, that they just got from the United States. Biden's escalating this thing. And I don't know if it's the deep state striking back or Biden striking back, but they're doing a clear message to create either a nuclear war or a bad war as Trump transitions or before Trump transitions into the office. Now we know why the celebrities were building bunkers, right? Well, it's being confirmed. NATO fired missiles into Russian territory, forcing Putin to step up his game to nuclear war. And we haven't been this close to a nuclear war since the Cuban Missile Crisis. And Putin doesn't mess around. He's not messing around. If he's threatening war, he means war. At least so far, he's not backed down on anything he's said. If this global disaster strikes, are you prepped? 90% of medications come from overseas. You need to cover the bases of your family medical needs, prepare for any type of medical catastrophe, and the wellness company's emergency kits are your best defense against the unexpected. They've got life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, amoxicillin, and more. The kits are combined. They have they combat bacterial infections, staph infections, bite wounds, UTIs, strep throat, respiratory illnesses, fungal illnesses. Each kit contains their medical board-approved guidebook that walks you through how to treat different emergency scenarios. Ordering the prescription emergency kit, it's easy. It's fully digital. Answer a couple questions after checkout, and your kit's delivered to your front door. Don't wait because this keeps escalating. You're going to wait till it's too late. Don't do that. Get prepped for life's emergencies and live with confidence in these uncertain times. It's only available in the USA. Sorry, my European friends. Head to twc.health/oddmanout. Use code oddmanout to save up to $40 plus free shipping. So get in on this. I'm just saying because first Biden escalates crap by giving them missiles. They fire. Russia shoots down most of them. And then Russia's like, okay, we're going to fire back. Now, the news right now, like Tim Cast and other news reporters, are saying, oh, they fired ICBMs, which are intercontinental ballistic missiles. Russia did not fire ICBMs. They don't need to fire ICBMs because Ukraine is at its doorstep. So they didn't fire intercontinental ballistic missiles, which is very scary. Oh, it's scary. No, they just fired mid-range hypersonic MIRVs that are also nuclear capable. That is kind of scary. It's not the ICBM word scary, which would scare Americans, because we're here saber rattling and threatening from the other side of the planet. God forbid you're in Europe and letting the United States dictate how you're going to, and dictate NATO what they're going to do. Anyway, U.S. officials told NBC News that the weapon fired by Moscow at the eastern Ukrainian city of Dnipro was an experimental intermediate range ballistic missile. Russia did not fire an ICBM. Thursday, a U.S. official and military officer with knowledge of the matter told NBC News Ukraine accused Moscow of launching ICBM at the center of Dnipro in an overnight attack. U.S. officials said the weapon was in fact an experimental intermediate range ballistic missile and that Russia had a limited supply of that particular missile. I don't know how they know that. And ICBMs typically have a range of less than 3,500. No, I'm sorry. ICBMs have a longer range. This intermediate has a range less than 3,500 miles, which would be, I don't know what's miles to kilometers, 6,000 maybe? 6,000 kilometers, something like that. Kilometers. See, I always give myself away as an American by saying kilometer. ICBMs typically have a range of more than 3,400 miles. Such missiles can carry either nuclear or non-nuclear payloads. Vladimir Putin said one of the newest Russian medium-range missile systems was tested in combat conditions, in this case with a ballistic missile in non-nuclear hypersonic edition. So it is hypersonic, it is not nuclear. The news comes as Ukrainian forces use their first long-range U.S. and British missiles to strike Russian soil after Washington and its allies lifted restrictions on Kyiv, a move that Moscow has long warned it would be met with significant response. Right, so now you've got Russia saying if you use long-range missiles and fire deep into Russia, we are going to retaliate. Don't do it. And United States talked about doing it again. And Russia once again said, don't do it or you will regret this. And then the United States did it. And now Russia's saying, okay, you're going to regret this. As I said, Putin this week lowered the bar for his country's use of a nuclear weapon, a move that was dismissed by Western officials as the latest instance of Russian saber rattling. Now, look, you can say, oh, all of this is saber rattling. At a certain point, when you're both rattling sabers and neither one is backing down, eventually the sabers come out. And when the sabers come out, Biden's going to be eating his ice cream in his beach chair, taking a nap. Kamala Harris is going to be laughing at, I don't know, a joke somewhere. And it's the deep state, the unelected officials that we did not elect. They're going to be deciding our fate. And they're not going to be on the front lines. They're over here in the United States. They're safe. It's you Europeans that are going to get the first brunt of this. And who knows? I have a feeling they're not going to launch armaments and stuff over here at the United States, because I think that would be a massive escalation. But I do think Russia will start hacking our fuel processing plants. Russia will hack our water facilities and our electric grid. I'm sure they've got moles here in the United States that came across in the 10 to 20 million illegal immigrants, half of which we don't even know who they are or where they are. I'm sure there are plenty of agent provocateurs that came across. Who knows if they smuggled a device that's, like a dirty bomb or something. Who knows? We don't know, because we've had our border open forever. So it doesn't necessarily mean that tomorrow we're going to see the, holding your thumb out and closing one eye to see if the mushroom cloud is bigger than your thumb. By the way, if you play Fallout, if you play any of the Fallout series, that's why he always is sticking his thumb up and he's smiling like this. Because if you hold your thumb and that cloud's bigger than your thumb, you're in trouble. It's a very rudimentary gauge to see how screwed you are. That's the Fallout lore. Well, so they're using Ukraine as a training ground. They drop these, and I'm not going to read through all of this because we'll be here for 2 hours. But from Disclosed TV, let me bring this up full screen. If I can here. Hold on just a second. Let me close down my other windows here. Yeah, now there's no audio to this, but this is what a MIRV does, is it splits and it fires the missiles down. Each one of these you can see coming through, it's at the end, sorry. Each one of these you can see coming through the clouds, and these are the strikes way, way off in the distance. That's kind of what a MIRV does. Now, they can use these MIRVs, and what will happen is every time you see one of these rain of, small projectiles firing their little rockets, these are little warheads that spread all over the place. MIRV being M meaning multiple. Well, they can, instead of having thousands of small little rounds in these things, they can also pack like 3, 5 nuclear warheads, and then they detonate much higher up instead of this low altitude. They detonate much higher up, and they can split, and then when they come down, you get a small nuclear explosion here, and a small one here, and a small one here, and a small one here, much closer to the ground. And that way there's less EMP damage, but there's more actual ground damage. This is not a good thing. This is something, this is something you should at least be knowledgeable and worried about. And even if, a lot of times we joke around and say, well, at least when it comes to dating and marriage, if your chances of getting divorced 50-50 are like having a bowl full of 100 M&Ms and 50 of them are poisoned and they're going to destroy you, would you eat those M&Ms? Well, the answer is no. Well, if there's 100 M&Ms and 20 or 30 or 40% of those M&Ms send you off to war where you might have a drone flying at you or God knows what else, are you going to eat that? The answer would be hell no. Well, this is what they're getting ready to send men off into. Zelensky has, not Zelensky, Putin has a few statements on the subject. I'm just going to play them, one clip after another. There's a translator over, so you don't have to listen to me bungle my reading much more.
I'd like to inform the Russian citizens and our friends around the world, as well as those who still nurture illusions that a strategic defeat can be inflicted against Russia, about events that are happening in the Special Military Operations Zone. I'm talking about what happened in the wake of long-range Western weapons being used in the Special Military Operations Zone. As a result of the escalation, the United States and their NATO allies said that they give their permission to use long-range weapons against targets inside Russia. Experts know fully well, and the Russian side has underscored this time and again, that using such weapons without the direct involvement of military operators from manufacturing countries is impossible. The further course of action will be determined based on the threats to the security of the Russian Federation. We believe that we have the right to use our weapons against military facilities of countries who allow their weapons to be used against ours. And in case of an escalation, we will act as decisively in a MIRV fashion. The ruling elites of the countries are nurturing plans to use their military contingents against Russia should be warned.
Now, a couple key things that are important that he just said. Number one, we're playing this war based on how NATO and Ukraine dictates it. In other words, if you reach deep into our country, we're going to reach deep into your country. And that this will, those countries given the weapons to Ukraine are now adding themselves to the war, to the enemy list. That means the UK. That means Germany. That means the United States. And he said specifically, this will mean retaliation on military installations. I want to play that again because that's very important. Hold on.
The further course of action will be determined based on the threats to the security of the Russian Federation.
Let me see if I can find the part where he says that.
We have the right to use our weapons against military facilities of countries.
So he says military facilities of countries that are aiding and abetting Ukraine. That's why, everybody is like, World War III is going to... No. But what it does mean is that Russia may very likely start attacking the UK's military bases, Germany's military bases, Poland's military bases, France or anybody else that's involved, the United States. And then if the United States fights back, China may call for calm, but there's nothing that says that North Korea, which is now working with and training personnel over in Russia, nothing says, North Korea says, okay, well, South Korea is an ally. South Korea is an ally of the United States. We're gonna attack South Korea. And then that thing pops off. Nothing says that China doesn't get involved. Nothing says that and see, so many times people say, oh, well, it's going to do this, and then they're going to do this, and back and forth. Look, we didn't expect drones to be the decisive battle winner in a conflict. I mean, I don't know of too many people that saw that being the edge in battle now are these drones. And now we have literally drone wars where Russia's had these big drones flying to go strike at something, and Ukraine's have these little fast drones that have, I think they call them like an optical wire type system in the front of them that basically are two stiff wires that when they smash into these big Russian vehicles or these big Russian drones, the little wires crimp and touch and kaboom. Like that, it's a very novel war. Who says Ukraine? And this is my biggest worry, at least here in the United States. I'm not that worried about seeing the mushroom cloud off in the horizon, watching Nashville get eradicated from the map. That's not what I'm worried about. We're not there. But just because that's not your worry doesn't mean something as bad, if not worse, can happen. Am I worried about an EMP exploding in the atmosphere and blowing out our electrical grids? No. I am worried that in the last year, 7,000 different installations were hacked by crypto scammers. And then they have to pay a ransom because a lot of times these companies say, well, the ransom's cheaper than fixing our entire systems. And there's insurance now. There's insurance companies that you can pay that'll ensure that if you get crypto hacked, the insurance company pays for you. Yes, it's very expensive insurance, but it's the hacking's still happening. It's just they're paying off the hackers. Well, what happens if the Russian government says, okay, hack them? And no matter what they say and no matter what they offer, we're not removing the hack. Well, there goes your medical NIS or your medical information. There goes the credit cards. There goes ATM or debit or electronic payment for things, which means how do you get money out of a bank? There goes petroleum delivery or fuel refinery. There goes septic treatment or fresh water systems. Like people don't think about that stuff. And in all things considered, it's not a nuclear weapon. It's not blowing people out of the sky. And then Russia can say, oh, these are agent provocateurs. This isn't us. What do you do? And then everybody keeps going on like they don't think about this stuff. And why it's not in the news, I don't know. This is a different statement. I'll keep letting him go down through them.
And we believe it is a mistake on the part of the United States to destroy the system that was established by the Missile Treaty in 2019. We see that the United States and their allies are now considering and has successfully tested their capabilities to deploy advanced missile systems in different parts of the world. And their exercises routinely include the use of such weapons. Russia has unilaterally refused to deploy intermediate and small-range missiles until we see similar weapons deployed by the United States in a region of the world. The use of the novel system, which was essentially an operational test, was carried out in response to the decisions made by the United States and their allies. And the further actions will be considered and decided based on what we see from them.
Look, again, I want to be very clear about this. I think Putin is a very, very bad man. I think nothing he's done when it comes to this conflict is good. Please do not take anything I say as support of this guy. That being said, he's made it clear several times, and he's making it clear again, I'm not escalating until you're escalating. You have these missile systems, you're practicing with them, that's fine. If you use them on us, that is an escalation, and we will return in kind. And what is the U.S. and the U.K. primarily, and Germany, what have they done time after time? They've escalated time after time. Again, not saying that there's anything good about this. But he says, don't do this or it's going to escalate. And the U.S. and U.K. and Germany is like, oh, yeah? Well, we just did it. Now, what are you going to do? And he escalates. And then they escalate again. What are you going to do? And he escalates. That's why I don't see... the West wants this so bad. They can taste it. They want this. And they keep escalating it. That's what they want. And he knows it. Russia knows it, but they're laying the groundwork of, look, you're the one getting involved. We're not. So that way when they counterattack or do whatever, and they say, oh, Russia, provocation. No, he's making it very clear that you guys are keep escalating, and he's just responding. Now, whether you believe that's in good intention or not, it doesn't matter. That's how he sees this. He sees this as this is a local thing between Western Ukraine and us. And the West keeps escalating it. And he's warning them not to do it. And they want it. So it is going to happen. That's my point. There is going to be an escalation to this.
As a response to the use of US and UK manufactured weapons, the Russian forces have carried out a combined strike on one of the military-industrial facilities in Ukraine. And this included the test of a novel intermediate-range Russian missile system. A ballistic missile with a non-nuclear hypersonic payload was used. The test was carried out successfully. The objectives of the launch have been met.
So, he's telling you, look, we've got the weapons, and he just proved it. Again, it was the non-nuclear variant, but it was a hypersonic missile. And I guess it had a range of something like 500 to 1,000 or 1,500 kilometers for you Europeans, kilometers. And so everybody's rattling sabers, but the West keeps sliding its saber out a little bit further, And the fact that this could be talked down like this, we could move away from this. We could sit down at a table. Russia has said multiple times they're willing to have a talk, and the West every time is like, nope, we're going to give more missiles, give more money, we're going to escalate, and Russia has responded. That's why this will not be de-escalated until Trump is in office. January 6th is a long time away when it comes to a battlefield. The West wants this. Please understand that. They've stated as much. They're escalating. They've been warned against doing it, and they keep doing it. That's why I say this is a big deal, and you guys need to be aware, because if it does keep escalating, at least 800,000 of troops throughout all of NATO, which is that's a large number of troops. I don't know how many troops are in NATO. Let me quickly look this up. How many troops? How many troops does NATO have? Number of active personnel in NATO. Let's see what. Come on, stop. Oh, screw you. Website wants me to pay money. Statista has the numbers, but they keep trying to charge me. Looks like 4 million, I think. I should have looked this up ahead of time, but I didn't think of it. Maybe 4 million. I don't know. We'll have to look. But you're talking about maybe prepping 25% of NATO. In the meantime, Russia mass produces nuclear-proof bomb shelters as tensions escalate with the West. Russia has started mass producing mobile bomb shelters that can offer protection for up to 48 hours in case of an attack. Ominous move by Moscow comes alongside the other development in which President Vladimir Putin approved changes to the country's nuclear doctrine. They talk more about, the changes we've been talking about and the updates. They say the changes in nuclear doctrine were shortly followed up by news of mobile shelter production being ramped up in Russia. This is a more frightening sign, as it means the country is preparing for the worst-case scenario. Putin has already warned the U.S. that allowing Kyiv to hit targets in Russia was being seen as an escalation. With mobile bomb shelters entering mass production, it could mean the country is getting ready to use nuclear weapons against Ukraine, and it also expects a similar attack on its territory. According to a report by Reuters, the KUB-M shelter is designed like reinforced shipping container and consists of 2 modules each. It also contains 1 technical block, and there's a possibility of adding more modules as per the Russian Institute. They're designed to be functional even in Russia's hard and cold permafrost regions. Russia says the war with Ukraine is entering its most dangerous phase now, and it is not taking lightly any aid or help that is being provided to Ukraine by the West. Therefore, the mobile shelters seem to be a last resort. The question of when and whether they will be used is something we all have to watch out for. Breaking news from the New York Post. 18 hours ago, Europe preps for World War III as secret German docs reveal plans for 800,000 troops. They are also, Germany and Europe are also preparing bunker-style preparation and testing underground facilities. At a certain point, you do have to say to yourself, I think the saber rattling is getting really, really loud. And they're screaming as to what's going on. And so far, we're still going. Nobody's in talks. No one wants to de-escalate. We're still moving in that direction. So I don't know what to tell you. Oh, that's a good one, Bo. I'm going to save that one. No one's de-escalating. No one's de-escalating. For those of you on YouTube that haven't seen this and want to see the rest, for those of you that are on Rumble or right now, I'm going to go to members only, supporters only, over on Locals. I got about 10 or 20 minutes more I'm going to do. It's on some conspiracy stuff, which is fine for Rumble, not for YouTube. It's on some conspiracy stuff, but this is going to go for supporter stuff only because, I want to thank the people that are supporting me by giving them a little extra something. So if you're over on Rumble and you would like to see more, please become a supporter over on betterbachelor.locals.com. Just hit the I don't have my right. Just go to hit subscribe to, weekly or monthly, or monthly or yearly, and you can become a supporter today. Come on over. We do a lot of fun things, so check it out.